Welcome back to session 3. We will continue our discussion on Google Forms. The last time we were together, I talked about the menu over here on the right-hand side that continues to travel with us. Before I talk specifically about that menu, let me first mention that questions are movable. If you have decided, oops, I don't think this question belongs here, I think I should move it to another position, you can easily grab the handles and then move it to a position that you like best. When you hover on top of a question or you click on it, you'll notice how these 6 dots appear up at the top. It is at this point right here that you are going to click. You will leave your mouse button down and then you will drag that question to a new position and then let go. Much like many other Google products, there's an undo button and a redo button located over here. I'm going to click the undo button one time, and it's going to take that question right down here to this position. I'm now going to talk about the toolbar over here on the right-hand side. Item number 1 addresses that talking point of how do I introduce a new question to the form. That is the Add a New Question button. Button number 2 is if I want to import questions from an existing form. Let me click that button one time. When I click that button one time, it will bring up any form that I have permission to access. I'm going to click the second one right here. This is a Midpoint feedback resource. As an instructional technology coach, I like asking the individuals that I serve how I can serve them better, and I ask them for feedback in different areas of the services that I provide. And so this is the tool that I use to gather information from them. After clicking this one time, I'm going to choose the select button down here on the bottom left. When I do that, all of the questions from that form are going to appear over here on the right-hand side. I have the option of choosing all of the questions, or I can be persnickety about the questions that I would like to bring in. If I only wish to bring one question in or 2 questions in, then I can select the questions that I deem are most valuable. When I have made my selection, it is then that I choose the button at the bottom that says Import Questions. Let me click that button one time. This question was deposited beneath the question that I was just on. I was on this question. I chose import. Therefore, any of the questions that I select shall appear down here. If I want the teaching site to be maybe the first or second question, maybe the individual's name should be question number 1, and then the site where they teach could be question number 2 if that's essential, then I can position this question up here in this location. And then the individuals who are responding to my quiz can let me know where they teach. That's what it's like to bring in an existing question. The next item on this traveling toolbar is text. If I want to add a title and a description to a new area, then I can click right here. Although there is a title at the very top, if for some reason the purpose changes partway through as you're grabbing information, you can supply a new title and a new description to that new section. If at any point you choose to get rid of that, feel free to use the trash can right here. The next item is if you would like to add a picture. I'm going to click one time right here. The same features that we already talked about in a previous video show up right here, and you have the capacity to browse and then drop a file in here. I'm going to choose a very generic term. I'm just going to choose teachers. I scooted over to the right to do a Google search, which is where I am. I'm going to press enter on my keyboard, Google image search. You can see how that's illuminated right there. And then if I wish to drop in a picture, I can scoot down the page, select an image, and then drop it in. Select an image by clicking on it once, and then use the insert button over here. By inserting this image, you do not immediately have questions associated with it. It just appears as an independent item right here. Now, I do have the ability to form questions that draw back to this. Here are 2 examples of how to use this feature where the image is isolated and the questions are beneath it. Here we have an animal cell and 4 items have been eliminated and they've been replaced with letters. Items A, B, C, and D. Beneath the image, students are able to respond to the missing pieces by identifying item A, item B, item C, and item D. Here is another example. This is a map of Africa. The names of these specific areas have been covered. You'll notice A, B, C, and D. Likewise, in a similar fashion, the students would scroll down and respond to these questions, identifying items A, B, C, and D. Here are just 2 examples of what that might look like. Or maybe there's playground equipment and the PTC needs feedback from 50 or 60 parents. You can drop the images of the playground equipment here and then provide several questions related to one specific image. So the questions are independent of this image that happens to be its own item. I'm going to use the trash can to get rid of this. I'm going to scoot down the toolbar on the right hand side. We now see video as an option. I'm going to click video one time. In this space, I can search for a video on YouTube, or I could supply a direct URL. I'll use the word web link or web address to describe what URL is. Over on the top right, it says lab safety video. So I thought science lab safety video would be a decent video to work with. I will model each of these methods independently. Let me start by modeling URL. By clicking right here on this tab, I'm going to scoot down the screen until I come to the share button located right here. By clicking share, this box will appear. I can scoot over here to the copy button in order to copy this URL or web link. After copying this URL, I'm going to scoot back over here. Let me click on this tab right here. I'm going to click right here where it says URL. I'm going to click inside of this box, Control V for victory on my keyboard, and I didn't even need to hit enter. It automatically appeared, and the select button also automatically appeared. By choosing the select button, this video will now be loaded into my Google form. Now I'm going to model the second method where I'm going to search inside of YouTube via this search box right here. Let me go ahead and type in my search query right here. I have supplied those words in my search query. I'm going to press enter on my keyboard. More than one video appears. I can scoot down in order to find the one that I think is most efficient and most effective for my viewing audience. For the sake of time, I'm going to choose the second one, and I'm going to choose the select button right here. It is off of the screen. I need to scoot down just a little bit in order for you to see that. Up here where it says untitled video, I also had a similar item right here where it said image title right here. You can supply a title if you feel that it is efficient and helpful. And I believe you also have the ability to supply what would be classified as hover text. So if an individual who is visually impaired is hovering over it, they would have the capacity to understand what is going on in that image using accessibility tools. I'm going to use the preview button located right here, or I have the capacity to come here and click refresh. Either of those will achieve the same outcome. When I am on top of that image, you'll notice how this little box appeared. And this is an instrument or a tool that helps individuals who are visually impaired. And then the software would help them understand what is going on in the image based on the caption that you supplied in that previous page. My title appears here. It says teacher image. And then I did not supply a title on the video, and then it just looks as though nothing is missing. The users in this space have the capacity to click the play button in order to understand the behaviors that they should apply and they should not apply in the context of a chemistry lab. I want to be careful that I don't infringe upon copyright laws and that I don't display too much of the video here, but it was able to start and play for just a few seconds. And in your opinion, you might be thinking, wow, that is way too small. My students would not be able to see that very well. How can I fix that? over here on the bottom right corner, you can use the broken square. And by using the broken square, it should take it to full screen. Normally it does, but it says the full screen is unavailable. Please learn more. Unfortunately, the individual who designed the video may have turned that feature off for viewers. However, the other option is to click right here where it says YouTube, and you could caution your students or your staff to click on YouTube so that a new tab appears and they could watch it in full screen over from this option over here. And then your learners would gain all of the insight that they need in order to behave appropriate in the lab using those pieces of equipment appropriately. The last item in this menu that I have not mentioned yet is the bottom one, which is add section. When you add a section, you are forcing the user to move to an additional page in order to complete the form. Let me click one time and let me scoot down. So after section 1, the users will continue to the next section. And as of right now, there is no title for that specific section. I would need to supply a title if I felt that was important. So I could even just say page 2 or section 2. Clearly, we have deviated from the whole what is your t-shirt size, and I have infused a variety of other themes in here. So in here we have section 2, and the users would be directed to these last questions over here prior to officially submitting. Let me scoot over here. I'm going to click the refresh button. That way you understand what it looks like for the user to encounter that second section. And based on memory, it brought me down to the bottom. So I'm going to choose a site up at the top. There's no question for me to respond to on this one, and you'll see that next appears here because at the end of section 1, the user is forced to move on to the next section. When I choose the next button, I then arrive at section 2. Give it just a few seconds to buffer. Once all of that information loads properly, you'll notice in the band right here that we have a title for that section. The main title still exists at the top. The user is still the same. This is section 2. The video appears there, and then each of my questions appear in sequence down here. My user now has 2 options. The user is either going to choose back because they would like to go back to the first series of questions to review or check their work. And then option number 2 would be submit. I would like to submit these answers to the form, please and thank you. Technically, there's a third option over here on the right. It says clear form. Down in the far bottom right corner, there's a pencil, and the only reason that appears is because I am the author. If I happen to click on the link and I am in this space and I would like to make revisions, for example, let's pretend this tab, if I were to close this tab and I didn't have access to that editing space, let me do that on purpose. I'm modeling what that error would look like. Oh no, it's gone. I don't have the ability to edit it. From this viewing space, I can scoot down here and click on the pencil, and the pencil would then take me to that editing space so that I have the capacity to switch from the viewer's perspective or the audience's perspective. And then now, voila, I'm back in that editing space. So here I have section 1 of 2 and section 2 of 2. Let me mention one last thing before our video closes out today. In the event you enter a section, okay, earlier in this lesson we were talking about adding section 2. If you have decided, oops, I don't think it is efficient for my audience to have to click the next button in order to continue, and you say to yourself that you would like for this to disappear, you would utilize the more button over here. Sometimes I call it a skinny snowman. In the past, I've referred to it as ... but it is more efficient to refer to it as the more button. When I click the more button located over here, you have 4 different options to choose from. If you delete the section, all of the content that you see down here will be deleted. So if you do not want to delete any of the content down there, I strongly recommend that you choose merge with above. However, if you do want everything from this point forward to be deleted, then you would choose the delete section. Let me click right here where it says merge with above, and you will notice how that section has disappeared. When I scoot to the very top, you will notice that it no longer says section 1 of 1. That is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video, and have a great day.